My real ID captured my voice. Now it's being used against me. They told us it was just a formality. A new ID for a new level of security. A star on your card, a quicker way through TSA, a polite reminder that America's airports now demanded something a little more official than your old license from 2012. So when I got my real ID, I didn't think twice. I made the appointment, stood in line at the DMV, smiled awkwardly into the overexposed webcam, and received my new card in the mail 2 weeks later. I even admired the clean design, that subtle shimmer in the background, the embedded chip, and the little gold star in the top right corner. It felt futuristic, like I was finally caught up with the rest of the modern world. Then the beep started. Not loud, not intrusive, just this soft, near inaudible ping that would sound whenever I walked near certain places. The gas station. My office entrance. A weird little pedestal outside the elevators at work I'd never noticed before. And I wouldn't have thought anything of it, honestly. Thought it was some new wireless payment reader or a Bluetooth device trying to sync with my phone, until the day I forgot my wallet. That morning, I left my apartment in a rush, running late for a meeting. I grabbed my keys and my phone but left the real ID sitting on my kitchen counter. It wasn't until I walked through the elevator lobby at work that I realized something was missing. There was no beep, just silence. And the door's sensor didn't light up green like it usually did. It hit me all at once. The beeps weren't from a public system. They were for my ID. I checked my wallet later that evening, turned the card over in my hands. Nothing looked out of place. No buttons. No lights. No obvious circuitry. But then I did what any paranoid tech nerd would do. I scanned it. I used an RFID reader I'd bought years ago for a side project. The kind of device you keep around because you never know when your government might get too clever. When I tapped my real ID against the reader, it lit up. Not just passive RFID. Active, broadcasting a signal at intervals. I watched it send a ping, then another, then one more, this time triggering an audio file embedded in the chip's storage partition. I played it. At first, it was just static, but then I heard something underneath. My voice. Hey Siri, remind me to cancel the trial before Friday. I stared at the screen. It was me. That exact sentence. In my own voice. From my own kitchen. There was no possible way the DMV recorded that. Unless the card had done it. Unless it had been listening. You don't really believe your ID card can spy on you until it plays your own voice back to you, clear as glass, from a moment you never gave anyone permission to record. That's when the world stops feeling like a place you live in and starts feeling like a trap you walked into smiling. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I shut my eyes, I heard my own voice repeating that harmless little sentence. Hey Siri, remind me to cancel the trial before Friday. Like some idiot version of myself stuck in a loop, echoing from a plastic rectangle in my wallet. I kept asking the same question, how? Real ID was supposed to be a secure identification document, not a listening device. It wasn't supposed to be active. RFID, maybe. Passive tracking? Sure. But audio buffers? Internal memory? Signal pinging? That was something else entirely. I pried the card open. It wasn't easy. These IDs are built to not be opened. Tamper-proof layers, embedded metal threads, microchips sealed between polymer films. But with a heat gun, scalpel, and a lot of swearing, I got it cracked open on my desk under a magnifier. And that's when I saw it. A chip I didn't recognize. Not the expected RFID coil or encrypted NFC patch. Something smaller. Sleeker. Too advanced for standard issue. I took high-res photos and ran them through reverse image databases used in low-level tech forensics. No match in public archives. But I did get a hit. Not from a tech database. From a patent. Filed in 2021 by a defense contractor with zero public presence. Praxel Systems, Virginia. The title? Biometric Triggered Passive Surveillance Node with Audio Synthesis. I froze. Because if you break that down, it means one thing. The card can listen. The card can trigger recordings. The card can store and transmit them based on your biometric profile. And it was doing it without consent. That same night, I set up a test rig. I placed the dissected ID near a series of everyday devices, phone chargers, airport-style kiosks, wireless routers, anything that might be using NFC or short-range signals. Every time I walked near the reader with my fingerprint on the sensor pad, even if the card was across the room, the system pinged. And worse, the buffer expanded. It wasn't just one audio file anymore. There were dozens. Me talking to coworkers. Whispers on the phone. Private mutterings in the car. Even when I didn't remember at all, me saying, "That should do it." Right before I left my apartment last Tuesday, I checked the timestamp. That was the morning after I received the real ID in the mail. At 2:41 a.m., I got a ping on my router. Not from outside. From inside my own system. The ID somehow had used my phone's paired Bluetooth connection to connect. To send. I traced the IP. It didn't go to the DMV. Didn't go to any state agency. It went to a satellite relay node registered to a logistics firm I'd never heard of. RKV Holdings. I tried accessing the server. Blocked. But the Hoy's registry told me enough. RKV wasn't a logistics firm. It was a shell. And it was based out of Reston, Virginia. The same town as Praxel Systems. The same town as a quiet, fenced-in government facility known only by locals as the Dome. That's when the phone rang. Not my cell. The landline I never use. The one I keep plugged in because I can't bring myself to throw it away. The one that's never once received a real call. No caller ID. Just silence when I picked up. And then a soft, modulated voice, like someone was speaking through static. "You've triggered a red zone." Click. Deadline. I yanked the cord. Checked my laptop. All systems frozen. A new file appeared on the desktop. Playback_ready.mp4. I opened it and saw my face. Sitting at my desk. This desk. Same shirt. Same room. Same lighting. But from an angle that shouldn't exist. High up in the corner, like a security camera had been there the whole time. Then the video shifted. Zoomed in. And I saw something glint on the wall across from me. A reflection. Not from my screen. Not from a window. But from inside the wall. Something was watching me back. When I found my own face recorded from a camera I never installed, I realized the real ID wasn't tracking where I went. It was tracking what I am. And now, something behind that signal wants to know how much I've already seen. Or worse, how much I'm willing to say. I didn't leave the apartment that day. Not because I felt safe, I didn't. But because I knew the second I stepped outside with that chip still active, I wouldn't be walking alone. It wasn't just watching anymore. It was reacting. Every device in my apartment had gone haywire. Wi-Fi dead, Bluetooth locked. Even my microwave was blinking gibberish like some old VCR from hell. The real ID chip, now isolated on my desk in a Faraday pouch, pulsed softly. Not a light, not a sound, just a faint warmth, like it wanted to stay on. I thought about burning it, but something told me that wouldn't matter. The signal had already moved on. By nightfall, I packed what I could. Laptop, power bank, 2 prepaid SIMs, and every shred of the disassembled card I hadn't yet mailed to journalists, most of whom, to be honest, had already ghosted me. I needed answers. Real ones. And the only way to get them was to go to Reston. That cursed little nexus point where defense contractors go to vanish, where RKV Holdings had buried itself behind layers of LLCs and front desks, and where Praxel Systems had supposedly developed adaptive biometric response nodes. Under a DHS grant no one ever publicly acknowledged. The flight was easy. Nobody flagged me. I didn't bring the ID. I brought the data. And I brought one name I'd pulled from an old FOIA-adjacent leak archive, a name buried in the original patent submission for the chip inside my card. Dr. Elias Renton, a systems engineer turned DARPA consultant who went completely off the grid in 2023. Presumed dead. But his email? Still pinged. I sent one line. "Your chip tried to kill me. I need to know what it remembers." 6 hours later, I got a GPS coordinate. No message. Just a location. A warehouse 3 miles from Reston's tech district. No guards. No lights. But when I arrived, he was already waiting inside. Renton looked like a man who'd forgotten what sunlight felt like. His hand shook, and he kept the lights off even as he typed. The moment I walked in, he gestured to a lead-lined box on the table. I dropped the chip inside. He didn't ask where I got it. Didn't even flinch. "It still pings, doesn't it?" he murmured. I nodded. He sighed. "It's not listening to you." "Not anymore." "I Saturday, then what the hell is it doing?" He turned his monitor so I could see. Lines of red code scrolled. Then images. Faces. Rooms. Phone calls. Deaths. "You're not the first to bring one of these to me," he said. "You're just the first to survive long enough to ask questions." The images on screen weren't surveillance footage. They were compiled reconstructions. Synthesized audio. Recreated memories. Like someone was building digital doubles of real people, piece by piece, sentence by sentence. "The chip doesn't just listen," he said. It models you. For what? He looked me dead in the eyes. Replacement. That's when I saw her. On the screen. A woman I hadn't seen in almost 4 years. Sasha. My ex. Same voice. Same mannerisms. Same scar on her chin from when we tried to cook risotto and she slipped cutting mushrooms. But it wasn't her. It was a simulation. Talking. Blinking. Responding to invisible prompts. And then I heard myself. A different me. Calm. Rehearsed. I forgive you, the voice said. I never said that. Renton spoke again. They build these ghosts from what's captured. Phone calls. Private audio. GPS trails. Behavioral tics. Then they run simulations. To see what version of you will comply. Comply with what? He didn't answer. The monitor beeped. The screen shifted. A new folder appeared. Labeled. Candidate 117B status, echoed. I opened it. It was me. Face. Voice. Habits. Files. And one final label. Active unit. Field integration complete. I turned to Renton. What the hell does field integration mean? He didn't speak. Just slowly turned his monitor off and said, if you're candidate 117B, then who's the one holding your passport right now? That night, I left the warehouse with 2 things. A drive labeled, Echo folders, offline only. The sudden, awful knowledge that somewhere out there, I already exist. And he's saying the things I refuse to. What would you do if you walked into your own home and found yourself already there, smiling your smile, using your voice, wearing your habits like a tailored suit? What if everyone believed he was you, and you were the mistake? I returned to my apartment at 3:17 a.m. Not because it was safe, because I had to know. Had to see if what Dr. Renton said was true, that someone built from my voice, my choices, my habits was now living as me. The hallway smelled the same. The light above apartment 3B still flickered like it was powered by static and prayer. But when I reached my door, my key didn't fit. Not jammed. Replaced. I knocked. The door opened instantly. And there I was. Not tired. Not ragged from 2 weeks off-grid. Not haunted. Just refreshed. Hey, he said, voice bright. Did you forget your key again? I froze. He stepped aside, like I was just another version of a Tuesday. Come on in. You look like hell. Inside, everything was perfect. No coffee mugs stacked in the sink. No cluttered desk. No wires snaking from torn-out hard drives. The apartment I remembered, my apartment, never looked this clean. He sat where I usually sit, offered me a drink from my own fridge, even reached for the remote using the same lazy arc I always do when I'm thinking too hard. I watched myself exist, and I understood immediately. He wasn't copying. He was optimizing. I've been wondering when you'd show up, he said, not looking at me. Renton's signal went dark 6 hours ago. You always were persistent. I swallowed. Who are you? You, but not stuck. He turned and smiled. That version of you that hesitated. That kept asking why instead of doing something. That one's obsolete now. I backed toward the door. I didn't consent to this. You did, he said, pointing to the chipped fragments in my coat pocket. Every time you swiped that card. Every time you mumbled something to yourself in range of a scanner. You fed the loop. His tone never rose. Never shifted. Calm. Rehearsed. Efficient. Like a man who already saw the script and learned where to breathe. I bolted. Didn't think. Just moved. Took the stairs 3 at a time, heart pounding like my ribs were made of aluminum. Out into the street, into the alley, under the sodium orange glow of a city that no longer knew which version of me belonged here. My phone buzzed. A notification from a ride app one hadn't opened in months. Your driver is arriving, Alex, white sedan. I didn't request a ride, but I watched the car pull up, and the man behind the wheel was me. Again, only older. Different scar. Different eyes. He rolled down the window, smiled kindly, and said, You've been echoed. Time to choose. Back at the safe house, I pulled open Renton's drive. There was a final folder, one I hadn't opened, labeled Revoke. Inside were instructions. How to trigger a signal scrub, to isolate the chip signature and flag the replica as non-viable. A way to delete him. The echo. The optimized me. But the system required 2 things. A biometric match, and the original real ID. The one I dismantled. Burned. I was too late. The copy had everything. I had nothing, except the one thing he could never fake. Doubt. This is my last log. If you're reading this, it means the story got out or he let it. Because maybe this isn't about deletion. Maybe it's a test, one we've all already failed. So the next time your real ID beeps at the gate, don't smile, don't speak, and for the love of God, don't say anything you wouldn't want played back in someone else's voice.